we're finally here. It's taken a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, and it is a special day because it's our wedding, but it's made all the more special because you're all here, and we really do appreciate you for being here. I wanted to give a particular thanks to, starting off to the parents for all of the support that they've given us, all of the help, particularly Colin and Ian, keeping us sane in our flat, and moving up boxes and decorations and driving and everything else, and keeping us away from the driving in the middle of the night. And I wanted to also say a thank you to the lieutenants, so that's Emma and John, best man and Ben John. They've been absolutely I want to give a particular thank you to John for the stag do. It was a memorable occasion. I remember getting onto the plane, getting off the plane, everything in the middle was a little bit blurry. I did get an appreciation for the difficulty that you women have in zipping up your own dress. So, sorry, which will I also wanted to say thank you for the people who've travelled huge distances. So Auntie Mercy and Auntie Renee and Oro, thank you for coming. We really appreciate the fact that you managed to come over here. From Nigeria and also from the US. Also wanted to say thank you to Pat, Diane, Kevin, to Teresa, to Johnny for coming, and also to Eamon for coming from Canada. And it's a long trip, and it's an expensive trip, and we appreciate that as well. I think that the furthest travelled person is probably Omar, who's travelled all the way from Dubai. So appreciate that. His wife Natalie unfortunately couldn't be here, so I'm sure that Omar and the barman are both dismayed. But I'm sure we'll meet up in Dubai at some point. I also wanted to have a round of applause for Todd and his playing of music during this. Very, very calm. I don't know if some of you noticed my leg was jiggling up and down. I was like, she's left. So thank you for that. Really good.
We noticed.
You were just watching, taking photos. And also, I wanted to give a thank you and a sort of appreciation to Peggy, Missy's grandmother, who can't be with us today, but we know that her thoughts and her hearts are with us. There's one more thank you that I wanted to give. Everything you see today, everything from the menus, the programs, flower arrangements have been done by one person, been organised by one person. It's been a miraculous event in planning, and I've had the privilege to be involved with it. And I wanted to show my appreciation to the person who's managed to put all of this together, and that's my beautiful bride, Missy. Planning has been I don't know why your pin isn't. Those things have been falling out all day. It's been amazing planning. It's you know, on the level of General Patterson. I mean, my involvement has been more along the lines of Dad's Army, but it's been absolutely fantastic. So we are combining two families together today. But we're also blending 4 different cultures. So there's the British, Nigerian, Canadian, and the Irish. And we've had a look at different traditions that are involved in the culture. So last night we had a rendition of the cremation of Sam McGee, and that was a very long passage that was given by Kevin, and it was an amazing feat of memorization. I don't know how you did it, but it carried on for a long time, and it was absolutely flawless. So thank you for that. It was fantastic. And we also saw the Nigerian tradition as well, where my dad was gave a speech and sharing a coconut, which is traditionally brought in Nigerian weddings and also some schnapps. I found out that I had to make, in the Nigerian tradition, I had to make a down payment of about £3.50. I think it came down to £5, but because we're in a recession, I also found out that I'm indebted to Ian for the rest of my life. I've got a contract that any mobile phone provider would draw at. So I think we're going to work out a payment scheme by giving grandkids to knock up a couple of decades. We'll talk about that later. I also discovered recently there were other traditions in the wedding. If you looked on Matthew Measures, you see some information that Missy's put on with different traditions. One tradition in particular is the unveiling of the bride. And this comes from the Bible, where Jacob wanted to marry Rachel. And was absolutely in love with Rachel. And said to the father, I want to marry this woman. The father said, well, if you work for me for 7 years, you can marry her. So he said, fine, we'll work for 7 years. Now, the father had another daughter, Vivian, that he really wanted to get married. So what he did is he covered up siblings' face, brought her to the altar. Jacob came in after 7 years and married this woman, thinking it was Rachel. And he discovered it wasn't Rachel. And then he had to work another 7 years in order to be ready to marry Rachel. Now, Missy and I have been going out for about 6 years. And as much as I love Todd, things right. So, that was good. Ian talked about how we met, and it was in Westminster, as he said, and Colleen picked me up. Oh, Colleen. Sorry, Colleen introduced me to Missy, and it was, Colleen was lovely. She gave lots of compliments, said nice things, and asked questions. Ian's questions, and he told you some of them there, but they were probably more along the lines of the type of questions you'd see if you were crossing the US border, but they got to the point. And I began to fall in love with them then as well. What a lot of people don't know is what happened after the first meeting, so when we started to go out and stuff like that. We had our first date, I think it was in a jazz bar, something like that. We played a bit of pool. And my first impression was, this is a little bit difficult for me. We're just going to wasn't interested. So we had a second date and decided to go to the cinema. And at the time, I thought, I'm a pretty sassy guy. I can read women's intentions pretty well. See how it goes. And she said cinema, and I thought, oh, nice, dark. Because I know when to make the first move. And so we're cozying up there and everything. And I think, okay, reading intentions. So she decided to take us to sleep. Now, if you guys have seen the movie, it was right about the point that the 9th victim had had their throat slashed and stuffed into a meat pie. I began to think, I'm not sure what she's trying to tell me about the rest of the relationship. But even after all those indirect death threats, that's true enough, I think. And on that note, one of the things people have been asking me today and also yesterday is, why aren't you nervous? I think even Hassan asked me last night, you don't look that nervous. And I've been thinking about it, and I think, well, at least this is what I believe. You get nervous about giving speeches, about your vows, and all these things. But I think a lot of people are nervous because they're not sure about how they feel or about the person that they're marrying. And I have absolutely no reservations about any of these things. And I was trying to think of a way of articulating how I feel about this thing. And the only way I could think about it is, I like the person I've become having met this. I spent so long before I met her convincing, and I can do a pretty good convincing act of being sure of who I was. And I like who I am now, and I also get excited about the person I'm going to be with her in the future. And I know there are going to be ups and downs in between now and in the future. That's just experiencing them with someone like her is the difference between looking at a painting in black and white, it's lifeless, it's bland, it's dull, and experiencing a painting in full colour. And while things may change along the way, and there'll be difficulties and there'll be trials, I know that I'm still going to be very much in love with her in the future. And I couldn't think of another way of explaining just how in love I am with you, except to say that I know how much I love you because every time I put you first before all the other things that I need to do, and I think about how this thing that I'm doing will affect you, I find I get back in return sevenfold. And that's a nice addiction to have. So I'd like to raise my glass. Thank you all for coming, and also to my beautiful bride. Cheers. Cheers.